I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, I have a new friend with me, and Harriet, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Good morning, Regina. Thank you very much for inviting me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. So yes, my name is Harriet Stein. My company is called Big Toe in the Water. I love what I do because I've been teaching mindfulness within organizations of all types and sizes for the past 15 years.
That's cool. I love the name of your company too. I told you that when we were talking last week. I'm like, it just makes me start thinking of country songs. It's so fun. It's such a fun name. And okay, so tell us a little bit about what you do, and then what do you really love about what you do?
Well, I love about what I do because I think a lot of times people want to make changes in their life, whether it's the beginning of the year and they're setting resolutions, which may or may not come to pass within a couple of weeks. But we start things, and sometimes, there's quite a time spread involved with getting those things accomplished. Right. So whether it's something you want to achieve at work, that could take weeks or months or years to achieve certain objectives. Or maybe we just want to look a little better because bathing suit season's coming, and that's going to involve some changing of eating patterns and exercising a little bit more. Once again, that takes weeks and, usually months. It is the opposite with mindfulness. It's why I love teaching it. Because even in a 1-hour program, I always tell the attendees that if they pay attention, their lives will be immediately changed, like forever. Because mindfulness is all about paying attention moment by moment with non-judgment. So if I can, as a teacher, if I can get them to understand that concept, then they get it. It's like a bell. You can't unring it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, what are some of the types of people or professions that you work with?
So I began teaching mindfulness over 15 years ago when I was actually working within R&D at Johnson & Johnson.
Okay.
So even very conservative companies like J&J were very open to letting me do something. I started at lunchtime on the side. It was never part of my job description, right? We all know what that's like when we're passionate about something. Absolutely. Fortunately, I had very understanding and supportive managers. So it all began at J&J, honestly. And then I started working at other companies when I left J&J 5 years ago to do this full time. While I was at J&J, I taught over 5,000 of my colleagues and had a weekly class for 9 years.
Wow.
And did over 70 1-hour programs, started, being invited to present at leadership summits. And I realized that something I was doing on the side, I could do full time. So now the last 5 years, I've been working at all types of organizations, from law firms to pharmaceutical companies to a global manufacturing company that asked me to roll out mindfulness globally for their organization.
That's fantastic. And what a great marriage of your passion and your career.
It's true. I mean, I've been in healthcare my entire career. I always consider myself like a tree, and my innermost core is that of a nurse. And I know when we were talking, I know you said you were a nurse as well. And so you understand.
So a shout out to all of our nurses. Yay. We love our nurses. So Harriet, tell us a little bit more about that. Like, the background of a nurse, what we do and what we care about.
Right. That is, as nurses, our main focus is what we can do to impact the lives of others. That's how we get joy, is by, decreasing the suffering of others. So back in 2019, the World Health Organization said that stress at work was a global pandemic. I mean, little did they have any idea what was coming in 2020. So for me as a nurse who's been, teaching mindfulness in companies and for 15 years, to be able to teach stress reduction, let alone globally, because now over the last few years, I've been doing so many virtual programs,
Mhm.
to be able to impact those many people over such a, period of time has been incredibly rewarding for myself, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're both nurses, right? And at one point in our career, and that just never leaves you. It just stays in your heart, right? So
Always.
yeah, and I agree. We have to, help people in one way, shape, or form. And I tell people a lot of times, when I started in the professional world, I took care of people's physical health, and now I take care of their financial health. So still taking care of people, still making sure, they're okay, and helping them along with whatever their needs are.
And that's so important, because I think when they look at one of the biggest stressors that a human being can have right now, right? Financial stress is up in one of the number one, like, biggest stressors that we deal with.
Yeah, for sure. And, financial stress is probably one of the biggest reasons for divorce too. So having good, healthy conversations around financials between spouses, I think, can help limit some of that damage. But, we can go down a rabbit hole there for sure, for sure. But great, kudos to you for your background. Kudos to you for turning your passion into a career, to a business. That's fantastic. And it sounds like you are definitely presenting at many, many different organizations and companies, and, keep on going with that. That's incredible.
Well, I don't think people realize that you can make little changes and it is a big difference immediately. And also, the opposite is true. If you don't make big changes, a couple years ago, two people actually died at one of the Fortune 100 companies, two salespeople, because they were in their cars taking a meeting. And I mean, how many of us have been in our cars and tried to talk on the phone, right? I'm not going to lie. I've done it myself. And they ended up saying at this one company that you are no longer permitted to be in your car and attend a meeting, because this is becoming the norm. And I think people really need, when we talk about mindfulness, right? This is very much about, yes, it's non-judgment, and it's about self-care. If you are not paying attention, we practice mindfulness as if our life depends on it, because our life depends on it sometimes.
True.
So I take it very seriously when I teach.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when someone's working with you, or a group of people working with you to improve their mindfulness, how long of a process is that? I can imagine you might be able to walk away from one event finding some tips to help you, but to really focus on mindfulness, how long do you have to focus on that?
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the questions I ask people when they're hiring me is, do you want a program that's just focused on awareness, or do you want a behavior change?
Ooh.
Yeah, because when you have awareness, yes, I can do an hour program where it's going to immediately increase somebody's awareness. Like even our conversation right now might be sending off little light bulbs in people that are listening, right? But the thing is, if you really want to have a behavior change, we have to practice. It is called the practice of mindfulness. So hundreds of times a day, the rest of our day, we're going to have an opportunity to practice. So when people hire me, I can easily do a 1 hour program, and we can do other small little mini programs to thread that practice through to their organization, so that they really understand the practice and they get some feedback on how to do it. A lot of times people ask me, so what's your favorite app? And I'm like, well, I teach mindfulness, so obviously I'm not using an app. I kind of do it on my own. But I teach because I want people to realize that this is something that is very easy to learn, and they don't need an app to practice it. Because I've personally found when I'm going through difficult things in my life, I don't necessarily think, oh, let me reach for my phone, because it happens fast. Whether it's that email or that text message, when we have to quickly come up with a decision, and we have to either decide right then and there, do we want to respond or do we want to react?
Yeah.
Right. an app is not going to help us with that. The learning the practice and having it as your foundation, that is what will help you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so if someone wanted to learn more about your program, learn more about working with you, where would they go to find more information and how to contact you?
Thank you. I'm very easily found, that's for sure. I have a website, which of course is called Big Toe in the Water. My email is harriet@bigtoeinthewater. My phone number, all my contact information is on my website. So I look forward to having conversations with people. I welcome the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I can see you being able to help so many people create mindfulness for themselves. And I know that's a hard thing to do in our world where we're constantly surrounded by distractions. Yeah, and that's what the phones are. They're a big distraction.
It's true. It
So
really
I'm glad
is
you
true.
said there's no app for it.
It's, one of the biggest questions I get, right, that I've heard for, so many years is people will come up to me and they'll say, I tried this, but I can't practice it because I'm the type of person that has a lot of things going on in my mind. And I always try to not, smile, because I always say, you know what that kind of person is? Human. That's called a human person.
Yeah.
We all have so many things going on in our mind. So when I say it's a practice of non-judgment, it's not just about, noticing how much we judge others. It's about noticing how much we judge ourselves, right?
Right.
And how distracted we are. And, when you start paying attention, you realize how rarely you're in the present moment. We wake up at 2:00 in the morning and we're thinking about something from the past we can't change, or, we're immediately thinking about the next day or what has to get done and the worrying, right? So
Yeah, never ending worry for sure about things you can't even control. I know that.
exactly. And I just keep telling people, notice it. And then the moment you notice you are worrying, you are instantaneously back in the present moment. Just take a big deep breath and just exhale and let it all go.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So I know you have had many years in a professional world, and I'm just curious, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered as a professional woman over that time?
Yeah, that is, nobody's ever asked me that question before. And I think I was really thinking about this question when you asked it just now, because so many people, we forget what it was like to really coming up in our careers, dealing with these challenges. And I think one of them is a woman is really being taken seriously. Because I remember when there weren't a lot of women in the workplace, and, even in college, being in a room with, I don't know, 100 men, and there were just 3 of us that were pre-med at the time in biology.
Wow.
I mean, it has changed so dramatically in the last few decades. So really being taken seriously as a professional when you're at work, something nobody would even really, think about nowadays. But I remember the way it used to be. And, it's the same thing with mindfulness. So many times I'll hear, isn't it like woo-woo? I mean, that's actually what they say. Regina, that's actually what they say to me. And I'm like, really? How about if I send you about 20 or 30 Harvard Business Review articles that talk about the value of mindfulness? And maybe you can see the seriousness of this practice. It's the same thing with myself. I consider myself a professional, and this is a professional, a tool that can help people, which is why it has been around for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree with you, being taken seriously, especially in more so or increasingly so, depending on what industry you're in, but across the board, definitely. And that is changing, thankfully. Now I just heard something the other day, a research report was that, the college applications are more than, and admissions are more than 50% female at this point.
Mhm.
So, hopefully that also stems into the professional world, and, we see a little bit better for each generation coming up than us.
Very much so. Very much so.
So I know that you are very ambitious, and you're, creating this mindfulness approach and building your business. But let's go in a time machine and think about, what is your retirement vision? What's your vision of retirement?
Oh boy, that's it. You ask really good questions. So I love what I do. I cannot imagine a time in my life when I am not teaching. And a female leader just asked me this question yesterday. And I was telling them how my grandfather worked full time till he was 85 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And right, because he was like, why retire? He said, I don't like being with old people, he said, because I like being with people in their 20s because they don't talk about doctors and what hurts them. And how we're raised really sticks with us. So when I see retirement, I still see myself working, maybe not as many hours as I have to, because you understand the importance of financial wellness. I think once I reach that point where maybe my mortgage is paid off and I'm in retirement, and maybe there's a little less stress on myself with financial challenges, I think then, will I still be teaching? Always. I'll be teaching, hopefully, till I die. So I don't see a lot of changes other than the shift in being able to do what I love and never, ever have to ask a client again for money. That is my dream, honestly.
That is a fantastic dream. I love it. I love it. And you know what? The saying is, I guess, what's the, like, knowledge is wasted on the young, or, it's like the older we get, the more knowledge we have just from our life experience, and being able to share that with the younger generation, assuming they're open to hearing it, is a very valuable thing for everyone,
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate you joining me, and hopefully you had a good time today. I know you were a little bit nervous, but I think you did a great job.
Well, thank you very much. Definitely, I'm always getting nervous before any interviews, because I always say to people, I have like 8 hours of content, and you're only going to get a few minutes, and my brain is quickly trying to figure out how to get people to realize the value of this practice in such a short period of time.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for this opportunity to really share my passion with all your listeners.
Oh, you are welcome. I appreciate you being here. And thank you, everyone else, for joining us. Again, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. Our website is forgewealth.com. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Forge Wealth. And on LinkedIn, I'm Regina McCann-Hess. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.